Welcome to episode 74 of the RXP podcast, where three working professionals talk about the games, movies, and TV shows they love to enjoy in their free time. I'm your host, Alex, and joining me today are Matt.
What's going on?
And Tiffany.
Hello, hello, hello.
And in case you're a returning listener, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed our most recent episode of our top 6 experiences in general of 2022, non-gaming specifically. And if it's not your first, or if you're not returning, then welcome. I hope you enjoy this top 6. Yeah, I'm just a natural. You'd think after 73 episodes of co-hosting a podcast, I would just have all that down pat. When you think about all the other major podcasters out there, I'm still stumbling over my own words. So here we are, flying by the seat of our pants.
That's all we can do. That's all we can do.
Exactly. And for today's episode, we're doing our second top 6 of 2022. And as you might guess, since the last one was non-gaming experiences, these are our top 6 gaming experiences of 2022. So, I don't know if my co-hosts, they probably don't, because typically we keep these to video games, but I realize maybe if we just want to keep these gaming in the future, board games could be included in there. But I know Tiffany had some board games in the non-gaming top 6. So.
Non-video game.
Yeah, so this will be top 6 video games of 2022. And we're just going to
I'm here for it.
Go from the down up for our list, going in a rotating order. And right before we hit that number 1 spot for each of us, our titular goatee, essentially, personal goatee, we'll be doing honorable mentions. So we're going to keep you guys, also hanging out of the loop, just so we don't spoil each other in the dark, so to speak. So we can't predict what is or is not on our list up until the very end. So with that, let's get going. Number 6, I'm going to start it off. And this, I'm going to be honest, I'm surprised by it because it's a very recent game that I picked up and started playing. So, and also to caveat, I have not finished this game, but based on what I played, it's been good enough to make my top 6 games at the number 6 spot.
Wow.
And that is Sonic Frontiers.
Dang!
No way.
So as you all might know him by, his great appearances in the movies of the same name, Sonic the Hedgehog. He's co-starred right along there with Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
He's back with another game, Sonic Frontiers. Honestly,
yeah.
I'm surprised this is on my list because, and I'm going to caveat this because I feel like every game I have on my list, I'm going to have a small section I'm going to call airing of grievances, because despite me loving all of these games, there is something I despise about each of them as well. So I'm going to start off Sonic with the pop-in is god-awful. Like, it's like that thing where...
Pokemon? It's like Pokemon?
It's like Pokemon, where it's quote-unquote open zone. So it's not open world per se. There's regions, there's these islands you travel to. And there's objects just hanging in the air. That's fine, I don't need some sort of great in-world explanation as to why this railing is like going into the air. But for objects just popping into view as you get closer is horrendous. Like everything pops in. And it's at such a distance where you think, oh, maybe it's because it's a demanding game. No, listeners, Sonic Frontiers is not demanding. These are not very highly textured objects. Like, there's no reason these should be popping in. So, but besides the horrendous pop-in, this is just a fun game. And this is coming from someone that I've only really played Sonic the Hedgehog 2 back on PC, in the 90s. Like that's the last time I really played a Sonic game, so I didn't play anything of like Sonic Adventure. Okay, technically I played Sonic Riders, which was the hoverboard racing game on GameCube. But if you exclude that game and you only count mainline Sonic games, I haven't played like a real Sonic game in over 20 years.
Wow.
But yeah, this game is just fun. Like, it's that classic like, if you know Sonic, it's go fast and complete the stage, right? Like, that's the whole point of a Sonic game. And the way they design Sonic Frontiers is that in this quote-unquote open zone, which, each area is divided into an island, they have such a natural design where you'll do a challenge on the map. It makes railings appear, and then you use those railings to go to other parts of the map. But it's all very fluid and sequential in that whenever you take a railing somewhere or take a bounce pad or speed boost pad, it's always leading you to another thing to do. And I really like the design of saying, I can easily play this game without really thinking, because it's kind of like hand-holding you to be like, oh, you completed this, here's your next challenge, here's your next challenge. And it's just very natural, you know. It's like you don't have to be, you're not constantly looking at the minimap. I rarely bring it up. I'm just kind of wandering around. I see a railing, I go grind on it. I end up somewhere, I do a challenge. That gives me another railing, I go somewhere else. And I really like that, because I feel like that's the whole point of open type of game, you know, these quote unquote open world style games, where you should just want to go somewhere, right? Like you shouldn't have to be having like a marker telling you go here, right? Like that feels like, you know, you're being told / forced to do something. And so I really enjoy it. Also, I know a lot of people complain about 3D Sonic games because they're not designed very well. That's true too. Obviously, like the railings are just in random places, so there's no like in-world explanation to why these things exist. But for fans of the old 2D Sonic games, they do a neat thing where on each island they have these portals that basically are portals to old school like style 2D Sonic levels.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
Basically, yeah, this is that combination of saying, hey, you have the 3D island, go and do these random challenges, unlock railings, but then also you can go do the old style 2D Sonic levels if you enjoy those. And I really like it as a nice break from the open zone aspect of it, because the levels take at most a minute and a half to get done. And they have that multiple objective thing. So if you want to repeat the level, you know, get this objective, then do, you know, beat it under a certain time, finish it with a certain number of rings, collect all of these like red star collectibles in the level. It gives you that replayability to even do those. So like, even though the level might take a minute, I'm on that level for like 10 minutes trying to figure out the fastest route, you know, trying to find where every hidden thing is. And so it's just a good, fun game that, and also you don't really need to know anything about Sonic to enjoy it, because it's just about going fast. And who doesn't love going fast?
That's true. So is it kind of like the 2D parts of the levels, that kind of like how Mario Odyssey, kind of they had the 2D levels embedded within that open zone?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay.
It's like you teleport to the 2D level, so it's like its own separate contained thing. Yeah, they're not built, they're not integrated into the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. This pick, I love it because, one, I haven't heard any of my friends talk about Sonic Frontiers, but two, I'm just like shocked by it. Like maybe it's because I think I know you guys better as far as like gaming goes. I'm like, I think I know what Alex's top 6 is going to be like. I think I know what Tiffany's top 6 is going to be like. And Sonic Frontiers was nowhere on either list leading up to this.
I was about to
recording.
say, I don't even know if Alex, did you even tell Matt that you bought Sonic Frontiers? Like, I don't even think he knew.
No, I had no idea. Did you play it on PlayStation?
Yeah,
I guess, yeah. So just a caveat, I did get it basically half off. So nice. I cannot recommend
on Black
this
Friday.
game. I can't recommend this game at full price because the pop-in is just so awful. Like, I'm like insulted by how much pop-in there is.
No, it's a canonical.
Worse than Pokemon?
It's a canonical issue. Like, it is because Sonic goes so fast, the game developers just can't keep up with it. It's fine. It makes more sense than Pokemon, all right? It makes sense.
I would say it's probably equivalently as bad. The thing is, at least Sonic runs at 60 frames per second, so there's like the pop-in doesn't feel as bad because the game at least runs well, whereas the Pokemon pop-in is just another technical issue, like amongst all the other technical issues. So I would say it's probably similar in terms of how bad it feels, but at least the game runs well in other aspects, especially loading times. Like, oh my god, this game, just like you're in it, you're
fast.
Out. Yeah, it's fast.
Okay.
So
Sonic
game feels great.
Wow. Yeah, it was a Black Friday pickup.
Wow.
Yeah,
so that fast.
I recommend it. Oh no, I haven't finished it yet.
Oh, you haven't finished it? Okay.
No, I haven't. So that's the thing. That's why I'm so surprised it made my number 6. Because I haven't finished it, but also I can only expect the rest of it to be as fun as I've already enjoyed. And
Wow.
I recommend this as an experience if you can get it for not full price. So I don't recommend it picking up at the full 60, but if
Here's
you
the
find it on
question.
sale.
How many games have you played this year? Just to put it in context.
Oh, that's a good question. Let me do some. You guys vamp for a
Because,
second.
like,
while
for
I
me,
count this.
I've played, like, I was trying to, besides, like, the longitudinal, like, I play it every year, but it's not going to be on my list. I've played,
Yeah.
like, 16 unique games that would come out this year, maybe, like, a huge expansion happen this year. So for my top 6, it's, like, out of 16 new experiences. But I'm pretty sure Alex
Right.
is much more than that. And so that makes it even more surprising that Sonic got number 6, and it wasn't even when he completed it. That's amazing. That's like a huge testament to the game.
Yeah, and based on my very approximate approximation, I think it's around 25.
Okay. Wow, that's
Okay.
awesome.
Yeah.
So do you think that either of us would be into it? Like, say it goes on sale again. Would you recommend to us? Knowing our gaming preferences.
I don't know your history with Sonic, Matt, but I feel like you might enjoy it. I think
Okay.
there's a level of, not to say it's pure platforming, because a lot of Sonic is also kind of like automated platforming where you don't have to be that precise in your jumping, because I feel like what Sonic fans want isn't really like, this isn't Mario level. Like, you're not doing like high, precision jumps or text or anything, but there is this level of jumping at the right time and also knowing where to go that I think you can get a lot of enjoyment out of. Plus, it's just a very casual game. And on top of it all, I just want to mention the music is very fun to listen to. I wouldn't say it's amazing, but it's like old school kind of pop punk rock tracks that I guess is in a lot of Sonic games, especially like the ones from the past 20 years, that
Interesting.
are
Okay.
surprisingly enjoyable, especially if you like to listen to music of like the, early to mid 2000s era, like punk
Yep.
rock. Like, it's definitely would be up your alley, because especially during the boss fights, and yes, there are boss fights in this game, the music goes hard.
Nice.
Okay.
I'm sold.
Okay.
All right, who wants to go next?
I'm going to go next for my number 6 because it's a game that we have all played.
Ooh.
All 3 of us have played my number 6 pick. And I've actually I've recommended it to people throughout the year. And this game is Escape Academy.
Nice.
I loved Escape Academy. Longtime listeners of the show will know that I'm escape room fiend. I recommended an escape room a few years back on our top 6 experiences.
Excalibur.
Yes, Excalibur. Oh, R.I.P.
I remember that.
room.
Yeah.
But this game is the first escape room style video game that I've ever played that feels like I'm actually doing an escape room. It gave me that vibe. You can play co-op with another person, 2 people. It's a great time. I played the whole game with Alex, and I played the first DLC with Alex, and I really liked it. It's split screen, similar to It Takes Two. Apparently, there was going to be an update that would make the split screen optional. I don't know if that's in production yet or like out and about,
Okay.
but like we still use a split screen because I'm not gonna lie, I like snooping on other people on his screen. To be fair, like if he's looking at a puzzle. Like he's like glancing and I'm glancing and I look at his screen and I'm like, wait a minute, I need go back over there. Where
She
were you
likes
looking?
taking
Like,
over the whole challenge.
Yeah, you like being alpha. You like just working it with
some
2
people
screens.
call it quarterbacking. So whatever. Let's
I like
be
calling
nice.
it alpha.
Okay. Whatever. Escape Academy, great game, not that expensive. I think it's like pretty affordable, especially if it goes on sale too. Bought everything full price. Like I bought the season pass. Like I'm here for it. Another couple rounds to come out. Like it's a really fun time if you like puzzle games and if you like escape room style games. There was one puzzle in the DLC and in the main game that kind of gave us a little bit of grief, but honestly, like we figured it out, like with the in-game hints as well. So for that, one each. But I really like this game, and I think it's a great game.
So did the DLC help its case to be on your top 6, or just kind of like more of the same? Or do you think that
More of the same.
More of the same.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I want.
I think it's more the same.
That's more all I want. Because it was
Exactly,
like the DLC, it's like, I just want more rooms. I just want to be in
yes.
that world doing that same thing, which Gerald and I played it, and we have not done the DLC because our
Okay.
lives have been very busy the past like month or two when it came out.
I
But it's
believe it.
definitely on the list because what an awesome concept. Seriously, like probably my favorite concept of this entire year. So good.
Yeah. Like, and honestly, like Operation Tango last year was super fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just a little bite-sized, like, co-op experience. Like, great time.
Yeah,
Really, really loved it.
love it. Love it. My number 6 is something that I have been low-key obsessed with. This is also the first time, potentially the last time, honestly, it could easily be the last time that this type of game makes it onto my top 6 because I'm talking about a mobile game called Marvel Snap
Oh,
has
snap!
infiltrated my top 6 and I could not have guessed it. It
And
is
his cell
something
phone.
it's on my cell phone. It is free. You can pay a ridiculous amount. You can pay like $10 for like the month season pass. You can do that if you like, but it's all just cosmetic. There's nothing else beneficial to you. Like you can easily get the base cards just by the
Playing the
complete
game.
RNG. Like you can make this a free experience, and that's what I've made it as. And it is something that I have played every day since I learned about it. And I don't know if that's been a
Wow.
month. I don't know if it's been 2 months. Who knows? Like it could have been my entire life because it is just like something that I do. I'm
Yeah.
brewing coffee in the morning. Hey, I'm going to play a couple matches, get my challenges done so that more challenges can come up in the next 8 hours. It's not something that I do all the time. Like I was off today. I played a little bit in the morning, a little bit this afternoon. It might play a little bit before night. Like it is just like bite-sized 5-minute games. It is for those that you don't know, it is a 6-turn battle where you have cards and those cards have different abilities and those abilities can stack and you can kind of make your deck to a way that has a certain strategy. And there's times where it's a little bit frustrating right now because my strategy that has brought me this far is now kind of getting countered with a new card that just got introduced in this
Oh.
new series. So it is something
Okay.
where it's like now I'm going back to the drawing board of like, okay, let me rethink my strategy. Let's see what's going on. But it is a game that is just so much fun. I love the strategy, and I love my favorite part about it is that it's not only strategy, but it's basically a way to gauge how confident you are in your strategy because they have this thing because
With
it
the
was called
snap
Marvel Snap.
mechanism?
So if you snap, that means that you are like doubling down, and they can see that as a bluff, or they can see it as no, like this guy means business. He like has something that's about to wreck me, and
Right.
it is just such an awesome concept. So simple. It honestly seems scary at first because I'm not a big card deck person. Like we know this. We've talked about this so many times. But this is the year that a card game has made my top 6 and it's a mobile game and it's free and it's amazing and it's Marvel Snap. So if you want to get addicted to something, do it. It's really fun. Tiffany, like I'm so shocked that you have not done it. Like you have so much willpower, but you just do it. Their new update that they're going to bring out like in the next few months is going to have
Yeah.
PvP like with your friends. So I think it would be really fun. Anyway, my
Wait,
plug.
it's not PvP already?
Yeah, so right
it's-
now there's only random matchmaking. Like you can't
Oh.
face friends. Like you can't challenge a friend directly.
Yeah.
Okay. My one other question is with the random matchmaking, do you is there a meta that makes the game boring or like has that not happened yet? You know what I mean? Like you're just like, okay, like people found this one deck of cards that's like I'm just facing like 8 people in a row with the same deck and this is whatever, you know what I mean? Like that's what I worry about.
So it's that is a worry, but there are cards that counter every meta. And so
Oh.
there used to be a meta
Okay.
because like every week there is a new location. So each location has like some different ability,
Like a
that
theme?
it like helps certain cards. And so sometimes the abilities can help things that make your on reveal 2 times as powerful. And so there's a card called Cosmo and Cosmo
Oh.
stops all on reveal abilities. So it's a way to kind of like know, okay, there's probably going to be a lot of people coming out of the woodwork with these on reveal abilities, and I'm going to stop it right there. There was a huge meta for like Venom and Carnage. They eat up
Okay.
other cards,
Like other
and
cards?
become really powerful. And so I just was like, screw this. I keep losing to these people. I'm going to keep armor with me, and armor is going to make it so you can't destroy any cards at this location. And if you want to see how quick a Carnage user quits a game, as soon as you put an armor on like the tile that they want to
field?
destroy, yeah, they quit
Yeah.
immediately. Like, so there are really great ways to counter all the things. I love
Okay.
it, honestly. So much fun.
You know, really, Matt, I think what this year has told me is that maybe you are a card person.
I know.
I mean, let's be real. Who knows?
All right, join me in
it's-
Hearthstone next, Matt.
No, that's too much. No, that's too much.
You can also play it on your cell phone.
Oh gosh,
that's
is it
different.
But
That's
it's not
different.
free, is it? Or is it free?
I think it's free.
It's free to play, but here's the thing. Right now, new accounts get free 60 packs. That's a lot of packs.
Oh, wow.
Also,
I don't know what that means.
just
but
just
sounds like a lot.
packs of cards.
Oh, got it.
But also, just to entice you, if you play against friends, so like someone on your friends list, you can actually borrow decks that they have, and you don't need to own the cards yourself.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
I'm just saying,
Oh,
I own a lot of the
that's
cards in
nice.
Hearthstone.
That's nice.
So if you
That
want
is
to play a
cool.
deck, I can loan, I
Or-
can build the deck with my cards, and you can just play it on your side.
Or you
Okay.
could just join him in the Snap verse, Alex.
So,
'cause
Matt,
That's true.
This brings up an interesting question. So I was big into this during the beta when I got invited to, so I played it before it went public. I really enjoyed it then. I mentioned it, I don't know if I mentioned it on the podcast, but definitely I mentioned to you guys. I was like, oh, I'm enjoying this. I did buy 1 month of the season pass at that month. It was in July, so it was the Love and Thunder season pass. So for Thor, Love and Thunder, a la the movie. And I really enjoyed it. I like the cosmetics. Is there any cosmetic? This is my question for you because I know you haven't spent money yet. Is there any type of cosmetic or any theme that would get you to spend money on Snap, even like a little bit?
That's
a great
That's
question.
a really good question. I don't know if there is, honestly. I don't think so. Yeah. Like I think that like probably my favorite Marvel either category is X-Men, like the OG, like the 90s cartoon X-Men.
Yeah.
If they had a way
Classic.
to have those classics potentially, but they already have some of those. Like the cool thing about it is they have random variants, and some of them are kind of like blah 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 variant, and the blah 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 are the actual artists that worked on the comics a while ago. And so like they take a card and draw it as if that person actually drew that character. So like there's free variants that
that's
you can
cool.
get. And so like
Yeah.
there's enough, like you get enough variants frequently enough to where I'm like, I'm good. This is going to be a free to play forever game probably for me, but we'll see.
All right, Second Dinner, that's your challenge to find a cosmetic that would convince Matt to spend money on Marvel Snap.
It's true. Good luck.
All right, moving on. Number 5. Also another game I recently picked up and is surprising to me that it made my top 6. And that is Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII
Wow, nice.
Reunion.
Okay.
And so this game just came out a couple weeks ago from us recording this. So it's very fresh.
Like not even 2 weeks ago. It was like 10
Yeah,
days.
not even 2 weeks ago. Like 10 days ago.
Yeah.
I've put 8 hours into this game. And so that's how much I've been able to play. And I similarly have put around 8 hours into Sonic also. So
Okay.
it goes to show how these games in 8 hours are enough to convince me. Mostly because, one, this is in a sense, a prequel story to Final Fantasy VII as a whole. It does follow the story events of Zack Fair, who's a character in the Final Fantasy VII universe. I won't get into any spoiler territory here, but he's a very different person compared to Cloud, and I think it adds a lot to that universe because it talks about and shows you a lot of different characters that do appear in Final Fantasy VII. So I think it's definitely a worthwhile investment of time. And mostly
Okay.
because, right, this was a game that was stuck on the PSP back in, I think, 2007 or 2008 is when the game originally came out. And it hasn't left the platform since. And so this is the first time you were able to play this game not on handheld. So they finally brought it out to the modern day. But along with that, at the same time, it comes with a lot of the upgrades that Final Fantasy VII Remake has in terms of combat, like fluidity. This thing looks great. It uses a lot of the assets actually from Final Fantasy VII Remake. And, this is running at lock 60 frames per second. Like, this game runs beautifully on the PS5. And so for me, I think it made my number 5 because it is really hitting my desire right now to play a JRPG, but also not like one that's open world. Because I feel like I'm starting to get that open world fatigue a little bit with like, oh man, I don't want to have to, just wander around a map. I just want like to have an objective and to be able to go to that objective, kind of similar to Sonic Frontiers. But also what's nice in Crisis Core is that in addition to the main story where you're basically running along linear levels, as a mission system where from a save point, you just select a mission like off the list and it just loads you like straight into that mission and it's just like go kill something. And for some reason, it's just very satisfying, despite how boring that might sound. You're like, oh, you're just picking things off a list and like fighting something. I think that the combat's fun enough where I'm like, I don't mind just like mashing out. And I think there's 300 missions in the game.
Wow.
Wow.
But I don't mind just like, starting chapter like mission 1-1-1, finish it in like a minute, very easy introductory mission, moving on 1-1-2 and like so on and so forth. And it's just like, because of how simple it is, it's just so satisfying because the combat's so satisfying. And also it just looks great. And so it's just this like culmination of also getting me hyped for the next installment of the Final Fantasy VII series, right? With Rebirth potentially coming in 2023. They did say winter, so I doubt it's going to be 2023. It'll probably be early 2024. But if it does come, this has definitely helped build that excitement for me. So yeah, it made that number 5 spot, even though I'm definitely not done with it. But I just, I love Final Fantasy. It's no question here on this podcast if you've listened to the other episodes. And this is just another great game in that series.
How long is it to beat Crisis Core?
So if you just mainline the story and not do the side missions like I am, I think you can beat it in like 10 hours.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's relatively short, right? Because you think about it, since it was a handheld game, right? Typically the handhelds like games aren't that long, so it's not like when they remastered, or I guess in this case it feels more like a remake for the current gen. They didn't change the fundamental design, and so it keeps a lot of that. The environments aren't that big, the hallways that you're running through aren't that long. You're just kind of like, you're taking minute 2 minutes at most to run through these things and just fighting things along the way. So, and I think that's also what adds to the enjoyment of it, because I can get through it so quickly. Like, this isn't a story that drags on with too much dialogue or too much random events. It's just kind of like, hey, in case you're aware and you've played Final Fantasy VII, you already know how this game ends. So in that case, we're just gonna like show you the events and like you get to the end pretty fast.
Cool.
Yeah, like
I bought it.
I have not bought it, but it's the next thing on my line. I think I told you all, like, I'm working on the God of War Platinum now, and it's like I just in a sense want to get it over with, because I like want to play Crisis Core and other things before the year's out. Crisis Core is next on my list, so I'm excited that you like it already with just 8 hours. That's awesome.
Yeah, I need to get to it eventually, but there have been some games that I've been kind of playing instead. But number 5 for me is another co-op game. It is my last co-op game on my list for this year.
Oh wow,
a list of
okay.
pretty great games. But my number 5 is Nobody Saves the World.
Wow.
So
I did not expect this.
You didn't expect it? Okay, so I played this Nobody Saves the World completely co-op with Alex. And, we each bought a copy, played it online. I had a freaking great time. Like, it was sort of like it's like an action game, or is it even an action game? I don't know how to describe it. It's like a beat 'em up. Like, you go through like areas and like you beat up things and you're like progressing story and doing side missions. The art style's really unique and different, and like you get to be a different like magician character. Like, you can be like a zombie or a paladin or like an archer or something. Like, you can just, there's a lot of different ways that you can customize your character, and you can change the abilities once you start unlocking all the different class abilities. Like, I could be an archer and like have three, like, I could be an archer for like the passive or something and have like completely different abilities. Like, I could have like all dragon abilities on my archer or whatever if I wanted to. So that game, I just had a really good time. It came out, I think, first for like Xbox, and then later it came out for the other consoles. And so Alex and I got it on PlayStation, and we literally played a few hours like every night, or like one weekend we got kind of bulk way through. I don't even think it's that long. It felt like forever though. I think it's because we had to do so many sessions. But I had a really good time. Like, it was really fun, and playing it co-op, like, loved it. Like, I actually really, really like that game a lot.
I forgot to air my grievance with Crisis Core, so I'm gonna air my grievance with Nobody Saves the World instead.
Okay.
I love Nobody Saves the World. The co-op was great. I did like the combining of jobs, as you mentioned, of like having jobs from one class make up the weaknesses of a class you're currently playing as, and like trying to find like what the strongest combo is, but also having like the move set that you need to be able to like deal with like enemy shields, or to be able to lifesteal, or to be able to avoid like the dungeon threats. But the grievance I have with Nobody Save the World is that the menuing was just too much. Like, there's too much that makes you have to go into the menu to click a button to redeem something. Like, why don't these things auto redeem, right? If you want me to know I did something, which obviously I was doing it intentionally to finish the challenge, why do I then also have to menu? And you have to do this for every job, and it's just very, it's a lot, because as Tiffany mentioned, right, it is kind of an action beat 'em up. And so I just want to be killing baddies on the screen. I want to be like pausing the game, going to menu to like fiddle around with like claiming stuff, right? So it just feels like it clashes with it. But besides that, yeah, great. Like, thank you, Drinkbox. Like, coming off of Guacamelee earlier this year, actually, with Matt having challenged me to get the platinum in that game, and then following this into your next game with Nobody Saves the World. What a great time. And besides the menuing, I think you guys have a winning formula in your hands, so maybe you can just reduce that for your next game. That'd be appreciated.
Yeah, this is another on my list. This
great.
is Yasser has a running list that he invited me to, which is like things that Matt and I need to co-op, and this is on that list. Like, we've been talking about it.
Have you started it at all?
No, we have not started it. It's downloaded on both of our Xboxes.
So good.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I've heard good things. It just, we haven't had the time yet. But yeah, sounds good. I love Drink Box.
I mean, I'm kind of surprised I'm kind of happy I got to surprise you guys.
Yeah.
With that one.
I've been surprised so far with both of you. So I'm pretty pumped.
Okay.
All right,
I want to hear your number 5.
My number 5 is my only co-op game on this list. And Tiffany has already talked about it, because it is Escape Academy, which is my number 5 gaming experience of this year.
God, love it.
This game, to me, escape rooms, like, I think Tiffany is the queen of escape rooms. I enjoy escape rooms. Gerald, who I've talked about on this podcast, he's recorded some with us, and just a homie. Like, we have played Escape Academy. We have not played the DLC, but it is a game that is just awesome. Like, we are both big into trying to figure out puzzles. We both love puzzle games, just as an aside. And so to have both of us to be able to work together, and like, we've got 10 minutes on the clock. we must be missing something. We're like looking around everywhere. We're looking on each other's screens. We're talking aloud of like, what are the missing pieces? What where what are we missing right here?
Inventory. Yeah,
And
let's
then
do inventory.
the moment when you realize these vases are all different and these vases look like faces, and like we're just like putting them together, and we're like,
Yeah.
okay, we got 5 minutes. Okay, let's look at them. You start on the right, I'll start on the left, and we're just looking on both of our screens as we're trying to like make min-max this to be the quickest time that we can do to catch up some time, because we're stalled for a little bit. But it is just so much fun. It is the game, and I may have even said this on the podcast. This is the game where we finish the second to last mission at like 11 o'clock. Both of us have an early morning the next morning.
Oh, yeah,
We're like,
yeah.
should we do it?
Just one more.
And we did
Yeah.
it. And it's a super long mission at the end. So like we are getting to bed late, and it does not matter because it
No
is
regrets.
so good. It is so good. Like that pure just dopamine release, figuring out puzzles with a friend. And I am so excited for the DLC. It hit right at the same time as like some other big releases. So haven't gotten back to that, but it's a game that I have told both of you, it's like, I wish we had more of this. Like, we love doing escape rooms outside. Why can't we? Like, there should be a virtual version of this. Like, this should be something where I would do a subscription service for more escape rooms virtually. That would be awesome.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
anyway, I hope they get their flowers this year, and I hope enough people talk about them so that they know that this work is appreciated, because this is the type of game experience that I would love to do. Not super long, bite size, love it. Keep doing it, because I want to play more.
Hundo P. Yeah. Oh, this makes me so happy.
So good.
Alex, now tell us it's your number 4.
Oh no, continue to vamp. I want to shout them out properly.
It's Coin Crew Games.
There you go. Shout out to
I
Coin
know
Crew
it.
Games.
I know them, okay? Spiritually. I know them spiritually.
Spiritually.
Yeah, so like they're killing it. Coin Crew Games.
They are killing
like,
it, yeah.
Because they used to make escape rooms in real life, and then they had to pivot during the pandemic. Like honestly, like
That's awesome.
rising
great
hero
pivot.
story. You know what I mean? Yeah, and I could
Maybe they
really
can lead
tell.
the charge for just expanding the co-op puzzle genre, because I feel like we do have a lot of co-op puzzle games, but they're typically embedded in other things like platformers or like something more action focused. And I feel like if we can take that step back and just have it be like just co-op puzzle like an escape room is, right, in real life, where it's not physically strenuous, right? Like you're not worried about getting a timing down, because I know like Tiffany and I have done some escape rooms where we understood the solution, but it was like the physical aspect of the puzzle that was difficult, and in some cases needlessly difficult. And so I feel like Escape Academy did such a great job where like a lot of it was just the logic, right? Like there wasn't anything that really made you be like timing sensitive, like specifically in terms of just not like, having to hit it like a rhythm game or something, but just being able to figure it out within the time limit of the room as a whole. So I appreciate that from that point.
Yeah. Okay,
All right.
so now Alex, your number 4 is
Number
Escape
4.
Academy.
No. Number 4 is not Escape Academy. This is another indie game, though, from a little-known developer, but published by a big publisher, EA. The developer is Zoink Games, and that is Lost in Random.
Oh, wow.
Wow, did that come out this year?
It
So-
did.
No, actually, I don't know if it came. I need to double check that. Maybe one of you guys can double check. I don't know if it
I'm
came out this year,
double-checking.
but I played it this year.
Okay, that's fair.
And this game, for those of you that don't know, this is a kind of 3D action game. There isn't really platforming, but it's also, in a way, a deck builder. And so what's interesting about this is it is, what was that?
It came out in last year. It came out in 21.
It came out in 2021.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Listeners, there was some gesticulating on the cameras, so I had to confirm what the gesturing was.
She was either
but yeah.
reaching up 12, the number 12, or 21, depending on...
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so this is a action game. It is in the style of think Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas. It has it invokes that art style very heavily. It is a deck builder in that while you're running around the combat arenas, fending off these enemies, you gain energy via these kind of blue cubes, and it draws cards from your deck. And then once you have a full hand, you may then basically freeze time and then choose cards you want to play that either give you more powerful weapons or give you buffs or debuffs you can apply to the enemies. And it's just such a quaint game in that I love the art style. I feel like in terms of art in general, not a lot of things attempt to emulate that style, which I feel like is very interesting, in terms of the stop motion, kind of claymation puppeteering aspect. But also, it goes to show that I haven't played any other games by Zoink Games, but I felt like it's very smartly designed. Like, I'm definitely looking at them for what they release in the future, even if it doesn't look like this, because I really enjoyed kind of the combination of going through the worlds and like kind of solving puzzles within the world, right? Of saying, oh look, there's a bridge you have to drop down, and like having to figure out like what needs to go where in order to activate this bridge or open this door. But also the combat itself being pretty snappy. I didn't find a lot of glitches with it. Also, it's pretty satisfying, right? You're rolling your companion dicey, what appropriate name for him. You're getting the numbers. You're then playing your cards, dealing damage to the enemy. And in terms of this, I won't forget. So airing your grievances for this. Even though there's so many great moments in this game, why is there no chapter select? Please, Zoink, put in a chapter select in your game, or I know you won't do for this one because you're probably long developing your next game, but in your next game, if you listen to this, please put a chapter select in, because there are so many missable trophies that unless you're like really tuned into what you need to do, you're going to miss something, or unless you're following a guide. It's like almost mandatory you have a guide open such that you don't miss something. Otherwise, you have to replay the whole game again. There's no new game plus. There's no incentive to replay the whole game again besides just enjoying it for a second time. So either please new game plus or have a chapter select. That would just make people that enjoy achievements / trophies lives a little bit easier. But besides
Did you
that,
get the platinum?
great time. I did get the platinum because I used a guide.
Nice.
To make sure I didn't miss anything.
Excellent.
Yeah. I mean, I started it like a year ago and then just haven't gotten back like a maniac. So I do, now that I know that it's on your top 6 for this year, it's going to be a kick in the pants for me. Like I'm going to have to, I'm going to have to do it.
And it's definitely digestible because I think I was able to finish it in 8 hours. So it's one of those games where you can just roll through it. It doesn't waste your time. There's things to do in every single area you visit, and they're all pretty interesting in terms of the themes that they lean into of saying, oh, this is Forberg or this is Two Town. And then also that those each of these cities playing into a certain theme related to gambling / the thematic of the game, right? Of everything being related to dice rolling and randomness. And it's just a quaint time to be able to go through.
Yeah. Maybe if I just don't think about the trophy and just play. I think I have come to like accept that I'm like a pseudo trophy hunter, to be completely honest. Like sometimes I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get the trophy for it. And then I get overwhelmed and don't want to do it because it's a lot of work. But if I'm just like, you know what, I'm just going to play and have a great time, I just get through it a lot better, Like God of War.
Yeah, enjoy it your way.
Yeah, enjoy it my way. So my number 4 pick is Pokemon Legends Arceus.
Oof.
So, Pokemon Legends Arceus came out January of this year. I played it, put in over 50 hours, had a freaking grand time. Didn't complete the Pokedex because, honestly, at the tail end, I started getting a little bit of fatigue because they had this new mechanic where you can, like, have a complete Pokedex entry for each Pokemon if you do specific tasks. And I was like, I'm going to catch them all and I'm going to 100% the Pokedex. But like I was trying to 100% the Pokedex while I was trying to catch them all. And so basically after I rolled credits the first time, I didn't do any of like the post-game content, which was like get all the legendaries. So I didn't collect the God Pokemon Arceus. So some of you might think that's not completing the game, but I had my time with it and loved it. So it was open zone, which was great. The idea of an olden time Pokemon game was kind of fun. Like I liked having like these like weird future adjacent kimonos, but like in the past. And I liked seeing how rural the village was that I was transported to. One thing that was kind of disappointing, though, is that they didn't have really any new Pokemon. Maybe they had, like, less than 15 new Pokemon. Specifically, they had, like, what is it called? Regions. Oh, yeah, region-specific versions. And they had a couple new evolutions and then, like, a couple, I guess they were almost like boss Pokemon that you played against or fought against or whatever. Great fun time though. Like I had a great time with Pokemon Legends Arceus. Like I was like at the top of the year. I was like, this is my game of the year. Like don't need any other games in 2022. Like this is it. Luckily more has come out since then. But yeah, that is my number 4 pick.
Do you think that Pokemon Legends Arceus is the future of that franchise?
What do you mean? Like, do you think
I
like
think this is the formula that they should try to perfect a little bit going forward?
That is a loaded question, sir.
Okay.
I think that they're going to keep this as a spin-off.
Okay.
And to be honest, I hope that they keep it as a spin-off. Like, if they came out with, like, Pokemon Legends Ho-Oh or Lugia.
So they just, like,
whatever.
go
like,
through...
I would...
Okay, yeah.
A couple others. Like, a handful. Like, it doesn't have to do every generation. I'm not saying do every generation, but, like, maybe one more. Just give me one more Pokemon Legends game, and I'll be thrilled about it. Because I think I've come to understand that open world games give me a lot of analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
And Legends Arceus was like open zone enough for me, and it ran well. So like, best of both worlds.
Oh man, maybe she'll enjoy Sonic Frontiers 2 based off that. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, after you said it was open zone, I was like, okay. Like, no, but yeah, I think it's a great Pokemon game. And I like the way that you could catch Pokemon differently. Like, you could, at the beginning, like, I'm not gonna lie, when Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee came out, and you could just toss the balls at them, I was like, this isn't Pokemon! You have to earn them! Like, you know what I mean? But then, with Legends Arceus, I'm just over here just chucking balls left and right, because it's like, catch 10 Eevee for like a Pokedex entry. I'm like, okay, I'm catching 10 Eevee, like, you know, just tossing my balls. And the idea of ginormous Pokemon, hysterical. Like seeing a Rapidash be literally like 18 feet taller than you. And, like, just seeing it out in the wild and look, it looks terrifying. You're like, what the hell? And, like, it's this giant Rapidash walking around. It's, like, level 40 when every other Pokemon around it's, like, level 10. And you're just like, oh, no, that's a big boy. Like, I have to earn him. And then you do, and then you have a giant Rapidash on your team, and it's amazing. So, loved it.
You're like, back in my day, we had to mortally injure our Pokemon before capturing them.
Yeah, basically. Befriending them? No, you had to cripple them.
Yeah, they had to fear me. Me.
Yeah. Yeah. I know both of you haven't played it, but I had a really great time. And, you know, to be honest, like, I know that I can't ask you guys to play it. Like, I'm not going to ask you to play it. But for anyone else out there who wants to play a Pokemon game, this is the one.
Okay.
This is the one.
All right, my number 4. Number 4 is a game that I have recommended to you all even as early as this week, or as late as this week. which is Tinykin. It is a small indie game that has stolen my heart. It is amazing. I'm happy that Tiffany has played it up to this point now. I know Alex is going to play it at some point. It is just a beaut. If you grew up in the 90s playing Banjo-Kazooie on N64, Donkey Kong 64, like some of these like classic huge games that have tons of collectibles, all the collectibles that you would want to do, but also have like an endearing story, have fun characters, great design, this is the game for you. Like if you want to be transported back to that time, you should do it, because Tinykin is, one, it's cheap. It's on Game Pass. Like this is a game that is very, very approachable in that respect, but I would say it's amazing. I love the art style too. It is my favorite art style of this entire year, and that's going up against some of the big guns. That's going against Elden Ring and God of War Ragnarok and any other games that we're talking about. Like it is, Marvel Snap even. But Tinykin is just, has beautiful level design. It is kind of like almost Paper Mario-esque, where it's kind of like 3D, but you're also like a 2D character interacting in a 3D landscape. It is just so much fun. The levels are very vertical and horizontal, and I just love it. I love everything about it. It is something where that I'm just surprised that it's so high up on my list, but being at number 4, it just fits there so well. And I could not recommend it high enough, because some of the other games that we might talk about are a lot more expensive, take a lot more time. And this is a beautiful, if you have a little bit of time, just play it. Like it is very low barrier of entry, and I would recommend it to everyone because it is so much fun. I love it.
Honestly, audience, you need to know that yesterday, less than 24 hours ago, Matt said to me, do my recommendations mean nothing to you?
It's true.
When I bought a different game instead of Tinykin, and he said those words to me, and I said, wow, they do mean something to me. So then I spent more money and then bought Tinykin, because like I was almost like, oh my god, I really hurt him, and I don't want to do that. So I bought it. Here's the thing.
What we tell each other is, this is a blank game. This is an Alex game. This is a Tiffany game. Yeah. And when I say, Tiffany, this is a Tiffany game, you just gotta trust me. And like, is it working out for you?
Honestly, audience, I stayed up late last night. Okay, first of all, I booted it when I really shouldn't have, because I have Crisis Core. But no, I bought this game, booted it, and played it for 4.5 hours. 4.5 hours.
So proud.
And I loved it. I was really shocked. Like, I was like, first of all, how dare you call this a Tiffany game? But it is a Tiffany game.
But it is.
Was like, yeah, that's why. I was like, what does platformer and Tiffany have in common? Nothing. But like, it really hit. I was like, I'm not gonna lie, like Matt, when you were first telling me about this, I like looked at a screenshot and I'm like, ew, those little eyeballs look creepy. Like I didn't like it at all.
She hates Mike Wazowski.
No, I don't hate Mike Wazowski. But I definitely was thrown off by the art style. But then I'm like, oh, I barely even see them because I'm so much taller than them. Like I don't even really notice them.
Just
the tiny thing, because they're so tiny. Yeah, and yeah, the levels are great, and it's very colorful, and like it's so interesting seeing a house. All the levels are in a house, and like being that small in it. Like, great game, Matt.
So
Thank
fun.
you for your recommendation.
Thank you for taking it up after I guilted you.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we are hosts on a gaming podcast called Recommended Experiences. It's like what we do.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, top half of the list now, right?
Top half.
Yeah, we're moving on to number 3. You know, there's a reason why we do top 6 here. so we can get this nice split, 6-4, 3-1.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's very symmetrical.
Love it.
So my number 3 is a game I'm pretty sure I mentioned, probably most definitely to my co-host here in the off time, but I'm pretty sure I also mentioned this on an earlier episode of our podcast this year. And it is the type of game that I would call a type of Strand game, for those fans of you out there that enjoy Death Stranding. And the game I'm talking about is developed by Focus Interactive, and that is Snow Runner.
Oh my god.
I still don't understand this.
This is your most played PlayStation game of the year.
Yes.
Like,
how many hours?
PlayStation Wrap Up. According to PlayStation Wrap Up, I have played Snow Runner for 132 hours.
Oh my.
Gosh, you madman. Like, just for those trophies. Oh my gosh.
But also
insanity.
the enjoyment of the game. So listeners, let me explain it to you beyond calling it a Strand game. All Snow Runner is, it is a delivery game where you drive vehicles, ranging from, it could be scout type vehicles, which are considered to be like Jeeps or pickup trucks, all the way up to, big rigs. Like these are like 18-wheeler trucks. You're driving these packages on flatbed trucks that you carry behind you. And the whole point of the game is basically pitting you against the terrain. You're in these post-apocalyptic parts of the world. So they've mimicked areas such as Maine and also Michigan, as well as Alaska, in addition to rural areas of Russia. And essentially, it's just you delivering these packages of goods. So it's typically anything from like steel bars to wooden planks to barrels of fuel to remote locations. And I think the reason why this game took me by such storm is that it's very simple in its design, and it trims a lot of things out that you don't really need in a game like this. There's no voiceover in this game. There's not a single word spoken. It's just you text on the screen explaining to you where you gotta deliver something, what you have to deliver, and how long you have. In some cases there might be a time constraint, how long you have to get it there, and also just radio music. So you can't change the radio, but there is kind of this nature style kind of just folk tune music going on in the background. But it was like the perfect podcast game for me, right? Like, it's not something you really have to listen to, unless you get really serious into it. I know there's a lot of moments where you really have to listen to the engine. You have to be aware of your vehicle, because when you're taking some of these hills, when you're taking some of these inclines, if you're not paying attention, you can tip over. And this is a game where if you tip over and lose your cargo, there's no simple restart. Like, you have to go get another vehicle from your arsenal of vehicles, from your fleet of vehicles, and bring it over with the crane attachment on it. And you have to pick up, winch your vehicle from its side back onto its wheels, and you have to winch all of the cargo that fell off back onto the flatbed, and then continue your journey. Like, this is a game that's very punishing when you don't pay attention, but at the same time,
that seems too real.
Yeah, like, I think it's this combination of how intense it was as a game to be like, I am white-knuckled driving my vehicle, careful not to tip over, because let me tell you, they designed these maps to really make you think about, can you take this corner at this angle? And you might think you can, and then 10 seconds later, you're completely, flipped over on your cab, wheels straight up in the air like a turtle, flailing around, being like, well, I guess I gotta go spend another half hour driving another vehicle out here to tip everything back over. And I mean, it goes to show why I spent 132 hours playing this game.
Wow.
But
I was thinking, okay, he spends 130 hours because this is his relaxation game. Like, this is to get like Zen or something. And no, like, you're white knuckled, like worried about flipping over your car.
Your packages.
Like, this is the exact opposite of what I thought you were into this game for.
I mean, it's the highs and the lows, because I do agree with you. It is a meditation game. Like, I listened to a lot of podcasts while playing this game. Like, I loved it for that fact, right? Because there I don't have to listen to anyone talk. It's just me driving around, enjoying the sights of Michigan and Alaska. But then also having those tense moments. And thinking to yourself, I just spent 30 minutes getting here, and now it's going to take me another hour on top of that because I tipped over to like correct this mess and then continue on my journey. And it might, if I tip over again, I got to, repeat the process. But typically me not wanting to replay things, you'd think I wouldn't enjoy a game like this. But I think because of how simple it is of just saying, get this from point A to point B, I enjoyed it because it was the challenge of getting it done. And it made me realize to say, right, not everything has to be about the ending, but it is the journey to get there, especially in games where it's like, I enjoy a lot of story. Slight spoilers for my list. It's mostly single player games, and that's because of how much I enjoy the stories of these games. But also SnowRunner not having a story besides it being you delivering goods to remote places, I think made me appreciate, hey, game design, having fun games isn't just how well the story is like stringing you along or like how well the acting is conveying character emotions, but it's also saying, if you like driving or if you like doing X thing and this is all that is, like, this should be the perfect game for you. And for me, it fit the bill. The only grievance I have to air for this game is that, fix the crossplay. Your crossplay is broken. I couldn't play with my friends on PC. Only one of them could join my session at a time when this is a up to 4 player co-op game. What the hell is going on? Fix your crossplay. Thank you.
So
how do you crossplay? Yeah,
I'm very confused.
How do you drive with someone?
So
just
that's
like someone on crane
so,
duty.
So because it's a up to 4 player co-op game, you can actually help your the person. So unfortunately, only the host gains progress for missions. So unless you're hosting, you're being a guest visitor in their quote unquote session, you're just helping them on their missions. But it is just that. It's the combination of you can help do missions for them. So if, let's say, it's divide and conquer, like they're doing one delivery mission, you can go decide to do a different one and kind of split the load differently. Or a lot of the time when we could get co-op to work, me and a couple of my buddies, we're driving out, and it is exactly as you said. We have one person carrying the load, maybe 2 people carrying the load, and one person's dedicated to crane duty. Like, they're just driving alongside just in case if we flip over, we can immediately, get back on track and like reduce that downtime. And it is that interesting thing to say, like, not everyone's delivering something, but we are contributing, right? Like, they are the insurance factor when they're bringing the crane to help, right? The problems. And it keeps you honest, right? Because you obviously know when you tip over, that's on you, right? You're like, you shouldn't have taken the turn like that. You shouldn't have tried to power through the mud at that angle. And you get roasted lightly whenever it happens, but it made for some funny screenshots where, one person tips over, so someone's got to save them. That person going to save them also tips over, so the third person has to be the savior to tip the other 2 people back over.
That's hilarious.
So definitely a lot of good moments with that game.
Wow. So basically, Alex, you didn't think our playtime together was memorable or enough to be on the list. So I'm going to move past that.
I won't spoil things that might come up in the future.
Not enough cranes, Tiffany. Not enough cranes.
Not enough cranes. Not enough cranes. Not strand enough.
Right.
Like,
right.
That's fine. Yeah. Okay. So my number 3 is something that might shock the both of you, or not really, because you know who I am. My number 3 is God of War Ragnarok.
Nice.
That is my third. Top 3 is my top 3. It's my last of the top 3. So it's my 4th recommend experience for tonight, but my number 3, if that makes any sense, because we had
math checks out.
Just try to do it as confusing. Explain it as confusing as possible, and we're here.
Yeah, and I've just done it. Anyway, so God of War Ragnarok, we had a peer review. Shout out to our peer review. Go listen to our peer review on podcast services, on YouTube. Go check it out. I was so surprised at how much I really liked God of War Ragnarok. Mainly because I took so long to get through God of War 2018. Literal years to get through that game.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But this one, I was like, man, I want to know what happens. I'm going to power through. Man, all these characters, there's so many more lovable characters. We got to know some more characters, more like Brock and Sindri. We got to know more of them. We got to meet a bunch of people, and like, it was a great time. Great story. Great time. I really can't gush about it enough. Just go listen to the peer review. In fact, you know what? Actually, I'll just wait for the boys to gush for me because I know that has to be on their list. So I'm just gonna move on from that. Matt,
Maybe it
what's
might
up?
be. I think
Maybe.
it is a fantastic game. I completely agree with you. This is such a good game this year. I think it has to be on a lot of people's lists because it's just so much fun. Like I am enjoying. Like I joke about how I want to get done with the platinum, but knowing that there's probably not going to be DLC, we're probably just going to have to wait for the next God of War installment. It
Yeah.
kind of makes me like, well, I need to like really enjoy this because this is a lot of fun. I think I'm a little over 40 hours in to the game as of right now.
Okay.
Working on just cleaning up for the platinum. So much fun. The combat's great. The story is fantastic. The way they're able to a very narrative game to make it just as narratively focused after the credits. I think that's a masterclass in its own. So
Yeah.
I'm very,
Yeah.
very excited to talk probably more about it. But fantastic game. Great pick.
Oh yeah, what a great game to end at least Sony's year, right, in terms of major releases, and what a great game to just be waiting for. It was originally slated to come out last year, but obviously they needed that extra year to bring it out here in 2022. They did it. Thank you, Sony Santa Monica. And in case you need more time for the next game, whatever it may be, take your time. Like you've now shown with God of War 2018 and Ragnarok, like you guys can make great games, and so definitely take the time. Force Sony. Don't make them. Don't let them make you publish it early. Like tell them, hey, we need to delay this another 6 months. Hey, we need to
Yep.
take all the time you need.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. All right. My number 3 is a small game called Sifu. Sifu came out at the
Oh
very
yeah.
beginning of this year, February, I believe, and it was my early game of the year contender, very, very early on. It held that helm, I guess, for a little bit, but it was awesome. Like front and back, one of the best games that I've played this year. One of the best games I've played in the past few years. Like this is a game that if you like some of those old school kung fu movies, if you're a fan of them, the story is classic, right? A loved one gets murdered. This guy trains to become the best, and he is going to kill those people that killed his dad. But not only that, I think there's a really actual, pretty important story that happens after the fact that you have to basically play the game all over again in a little bit more difficult because you're going to play it like almost like a pacifist run. And when you play it in that way, you
Oh.
get even more story. So it's more deep than just like a
Oh.
nice beat 'em up action game. It's something where I've almost spoiled enough. I want to leave the rest spoiler free because they will have an update. A lot of people said, their biggest gripe with the game that it was difficult. It's a very difficult game because every time that you die, you gain age. And so you're wanting to
Yeah.
die the least amount of times because you can like age out and die like once you become like 80 years old or 70 years old or whatever. So it can be very difficult. It can be like, it will beat you down. But hopefully this new update that lets you kind of like have like more of like a story mode or an easy mode. If you're thinking about it, go for it because honestly, the story in itself is enough to make you want to play. Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic set design. It is just beautiful. The second world that you go to is a nightclub, and so you get like the reverberations. You like play with headphones. You feel like the reverberations of like a big bass and that's like the music that's happening as like you're grabbing beer bottles and throwing them across the nightclub, and then taking a chair and throwing it over to hit somebody else, and then like you kick up a bat to like fight off a couple other people. Like, it is the most smooth combat that you'd ever see in a video game. So I cannot say enough. Like, the gaps for me, you know, as we talked about having a top 6, 4 through 6 fantastic games I recommend, but honestly these last 3 for me, leagues, there's a huge gap between number 3 and number 4 for me. Like, these are games that I recommend for everyone. So go play. I don't know if either of you have played it, but keep it on your list, especially with some of these holiday sales happening right now.
I'm not good at video games, so I am so happy that this game exists for you, but it just terrifies me.
But there might be a mode for you. That's the thing. Like a story mode, you know?
Yeah. I feel like, Alex, you're thinking about getting it, though, and now that it's on Matt's list.
Yeah, it's especially when it came out. It came out in a similar time frame to
Horizon,
a game that we might be talking about very soon, and so it has been on my watch list. I haven't gone to it yet, but definitely, you know, following up things like Tinykin, you know, gotta get through all these other recommendations, man. There's a lot of non-overlap here. And so it seems like it'll eventually fall in the, you know, in the time frame where I'm like, yeah, nothing else is out. I got some time. Like, let's check out, see what Sifu's all about, you know, and hopefully not struggle as much, considering I've seen a lot of this game. But, you know, in case I need to struggle, at least it'll be for something well worth it, because definitely based on the visuals, I know there's a lot of good looking scenes, especially during the boss fights.
Yes.
So I won't spoil those there, but I did see some of them, so they're very interesting.
Okay.
All right, with that, we get to number 2, and as Tiffany just mentioned, it is for me Horizon Forbidden West.
Okay.
Guerrilla
nice.
Games.
Wow.
And I've talked about this game on other episodes, but for folks listening right now, you know, as simple as it is, this is an extension of the first game. If you enjoyed Horizon Zero Dawn, which came out in 2017, 5 years ago, then you'll enjoy Horizon Forbidden West. This is not to be too reductive and say it's more of the same, but this is a game that continues Aloy's journey, takes the story in a very ridiculous direction that I was not expecting, but honestly, I'm excited for the upcoming DLC, The Burning Shores, which, by the way, PSA, in case you didn't know, even though Forbidden West is on PS4 and PS5, the DLC is only available to PS5 owners of the game, so you cannot play the DLC on PS4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So unfortunate for those, but in case you weren't aware, let this be your reminder now. But this is a game that really just fleshes out the world more. You know, you go west, right? Like, this takes place on the west coast of the U.S. You see the Golden Gate Bridge. You see Las Vegas. And also, more importantly, you get hints to the wider world, right? Basically what they call, actually, I forget what they exactly call it, but it's essentially the Far East. So it's talking about places like China and Japan and Korea.
Gotcha.
Are mentioned. And so definitely I really enjoyed this installment to just blow out the world and go even beyond Earth, you know. And it is very interesting in that I love this game, even though it is open world, right? And I did mention I kind of like Sonic Frontiers and Crisis Core because they're more linear games. I didn't have to deal with the open world. But in this case, it was just such a beautiful open world, like seeing the landscapes, seeing the oceans, like some of the most beautiful water I've ever seen in a video game. And there's a lot of it. And also the new machines that they've introduced, except for the weird, I don't even know. It's like a brontosaurus, but it's got like a sprinkler on its back. Hate that machine. That's my grievance for this game. That machine is the worst machine the new machine they added to the game.
Is it called a long neck, or is that something else?
No, the tall neck is like the giraffe
tall
looking
neck.
machine.
Okay.
Yeah, I forget what these, but they have like they're amphibious looking. It's like maybe a plesiosaurus or something. I don't know.
Okay.
It's awful. It's got a sprinkler on its back. It's just bad. Besides that, though, there's a lot I want to say about this game, but I can't because I don't want to for spoiler reasons. Most of that this is a fun open world game. I love the combat, especially against the machines. There is talks apparently that they're going to make a open world MMO style, or at least co-op action game in the Horizon universe. So I'm definitely excited for that whenever that comes out, because honestly, these machines, I could see a Monster Hunter style game coming out of this, where it's like you and 3 other hunters, aiming for the machine's weak points, exposing them, dealing damage and weakening them to eventually take them down. So I feel like that's going to be a lot of fun in co-op, as much fun as it is by yourself. And also, love the acting, right? I mean, it's got some big name talent in there, and I forget her name, but the actress from The Matrix. I don't know if you guys know off the top of your head.
It's like
know who you're
Carrie
talking
Ann
about.
something.
Carrie Ann Moss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. She's in it. And also, and I forget, but from Wakanda Forever most recently, the mother.
Wait. Oh,
Angela Bassett.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's big name talent in this game, and I was surprised when they first showed those characters off in trailers leading up to the release that they got these actresses to be in it. And I do think that their acting, at least on Carrie Ann Moss's side, does add a lot to the story and to her character. And yeah, overall, it's just a great time, and so I definitely recommend it.
Okay.
I have it purchased. I'm just waiting for a time
Okay.
that I can sink in some time. Is it like 40 hours to beat platinum, or?
To platinum, let me double check it. Let me double check my list.
He's like, do you
Maybe
have more
more?
time than that? No, I'm just kidding. I'm
Actually,
kidding.
yeah, I
don't
think
know.
if you want to go for the platinum, I have it about 43 hours, so
Okay.
definitely doable.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that sounds good. I'm excited for
Okay,
it.
just one work
When
week.
does the DLC happen?
April, isn't it?
I think April 23rd or
Okay.
something. Yeah, it's like mid to late April.
So there's my time limit. I've got until between now and April, because I definitely, that DLC looked wild for the Game Awards. So excited for it.
Did you play the DLC for Zero Dawn?
Yeah. Yep. 100%ed
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So good.
Okay.
Honestly, like the DLC of Zero Dawn, one of my favorite parts of that entire game. Like it was really good. It was like a DLC that extended everything and had really good story beats that helped us know kind of where we were going after that. So that makes
Okay.
me think, like, when a studio nails those DLCs, I'm just like, they're probably going to continue to nail it. Like their DLCs are
Right.
not just like throwaways. So I'm excited for that. But cool. Great rec.
Okay. Cool. So my top two might surprise you guys. I don't know. We'll see by reactions. But my number 2 game of the year, 2022, that I recommend to people with a little bit of a caveat, is Disney's Dreamlight Valley.
Oh my gosh. There's no surprises here.
Okay.
I knew it's
So
coming.
you knew it was coming. Disney Dreamlight Valley is my most played Nintendo Switch game this year. I played over it apparently per the Nintendo wrap up. I put in 94 hours into that game.
Wow.
Within like a month. Within like 5 weeks. I would probably say like within 5 weeks. It said like 28 days. I don't know.
For the record, listeners, when we mentioned before I played SnowRunner for 132 hours, that was over the course of like 5 months. So let's just put that into perspective compared to Tiffany's commitment to the Dreamlight Valley of Disney.
Yeah, so like it definitely consumed my September and parts of my October. So I think it was within 5 to 6 weeks. Disney Dreamlight Valley is in early access, so this is where I have the caveat. It's going to be free to play sometime next year. I maybe in 2024. I don't know. I'm pretty sure they're going to try to make the 2023 deadline. It's going to be free to play. I would say really wait for that for the most general audience. I bought the early access because I wanted it. I knew I needed it. I felt the cave of the Animal Crossing sort of dying down a bit, even though I did actually boot up Animal Crossing a few times this year, also per my Nintendo wrap up. But the Disney Dreamlight Valley has quality of life improvements from Animal that I wish Animal Crossing did have. Like, you could craft with items from your inventory. You can cook with items from your inventory. You can put storage like outside of your home and put things in it, which Animal Crossing ended up having an update where you could also do that as well. But the fact that it's Disney characters, you have these Disney characters move into your village, your kingdom. It's more like a kingdom. You're like in this kingdom, and there's story beats there. You can become friends with them. You can cook meals for them. You can literally put their house in wherever biome. There's different biomes, you know, any biome in the kingdom. And like, they just came out with this Toy Story update in like November, I think. I have yet to actually boot this game back up again to play it, but I was also kind of afraid that I would need like at least 10 hours available for me to to like, you know, like get Buzz and Woody and like become BFFs and like give them gifts and food and everything, do all the things with them. This game is a lot of fun. If you like base building, if you like life sim games, Disney Dreamlight Valley is great. And I recommend it. But wait until it's free. Because there's some glitching in the game. Or, you know, obviously it's early access. So, like, I had to deal with some stuff that prevented progression of certain storylines. It has been fixed for me. But it crashes constantly. That's another thing. The game literally crashed, like, on me, like, every hour and a half. I don't even know. Like, it was, like, wild. And I was still like, I love this game. Like, it's crashing, and
That's
I'm
a
like,
testament.
I was like, time to boot it back up again. Hopefully I didn't lose. I only lost 10 minutes of gameplay and not an hour. You know what I mean? Like, I'm literally, like, I wasn't angry. Like, and there were other games this year that I experienced as crashes and bugs that made me angry. And for some reason, I just didn't. Just good vibes all around. Jolly vibes. Cozy vibes.
Yeah, shout out to Cult of the Lamb. Am I right? Or
I
maybe
wasn't
that.
gonna name names yet.
Yeah,
God, I don't even know.
I don't even know.
Anyway. Like how to respond to
Like,
my gushing of this game.
I'm very happy for you. There's no
Thank
part
you.
about this game that makes me want to do it though.
That's fair. That's fine. I get
enjoyed the Animal Crossing, like almost like I don't know, it was just a blank slate where I didn't know anything about many of the villagers coming in. Mm-hmm. And then
Right.
like, I don't know, would that be different? Like, would it be better? Would it be worse knowing like the characters moving in? I don't know.
Right.
But I'm happy for
Like-
you though. I'm very happy for you.
Like Maui. A lot of the community, like Maui will, for some reason, some of his animations is like he'll like flex on the stairs, on the main stairway. And like everyone's like, if he flexes there one more time,
That's
he's out the door. Like,
hilarious.
and
Can you evict
Maui's so, no, you can't evict them. And
No.
also like,
Maui's
let me-
just channeling his inner rock. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know, man. Maui's also just literally huge. So like, if he's standing in the stairwell, like, and you're just trying to get by, it's like, move. You know what I mean? Like, get out of the way. And he's just flexing. You know, he's just
See,
like,
I wish you
hey.
could evict them, you know?
Yeah, I'd be like,
That'd be a quality of life
get off
improvement.
my island.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
Skinny
I-
people only.
I
so
really
I can
had-
get by you on the stairs.
No body shaming here. I'm just saying that Maui's like
Body shaming a
little
god.
animations could be more, maybe more varied. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. This time next year we'll be shaming Hades.
That's right. That's
Just
right.
kidding. I don't know. Yeah, but number 2, Disney's Dreamlight Valley.
All right. My number 2 is a game that is fantastic. We've already talked about God of War Ragnarok.
I know it.
It
Yep.
is.
Mm-hmm.
It is a great
Okay.
game. It is my number 2 game of the year. This is something where I'm pretty sure my co-hosts know exactly who's number 1, but I think that the battle that I had to go through to decide who was number 1, number 2 should show how strong this game was. And it is one of the best games that I've played recently. I definitely think that it has made a lot of great strides from 2018. I think 2018 was much simpler and more linear. And to me, I enjoyed that pace, I think, of 2018 in a sense. And I don't know if it's better or if it's worse. Even like doing the peer review with you all, I'm still don't know where I lie as far as like which I would rank above the other. But I think in a lot of sense,
Right.
God of War Ragnarok has seen the formula and added to it, and it has become like a fantastic, it is a masterpiece in my mind.
Experience.
I think that it is a great game. Like if you have a PlayStation 5 or like I guess PlayStation 4 too, right? Like if you have a means to play this game when this comes out for PC, which it will eventually, like you need to play this game because it is something that I enjoyed. It was the best story of the year. Fantastic. I love the characters. I love the character development. I think that Christopher Judge as Kratos is his lifetime achievement award. Honestly, as a voice actor, I thought that the beats that he was able to convey in his voice, so strong. Some of the best cinematography within a game that makes me feel like I'm watching a movie, and I just can't get over it.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I'm playing to get the platinum right now, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It's from hour 1 until hour, I guess, 44, 45, wherever I'm at. Like, I'm enjoying it. It is not a chore to me. I do think some of the backtracking towards the end to get the platinum is arduous. And I'm like, should I play a podcast to pass the times, like rowing in this boat? And then I'm like, no, like what if Mimir says something that, you know, like some lore? Because he still does. Like they still have pieces of lore that they're talking about. And I'm really enjoying it. Can't say enough about the game. It is a strong, strong game that I would recommend to everyone. Everyone. And I cannot wait to see what they do next. You know, whether or not they go to Egypt or, you know, Eastern Asia. I think that, honestly, whatever they do, it's going to be great. And I'm probably going to put it on my top 6 list whenever it comes out. So go play it, everybody.
Fun fact: I had a friend who was in the throes of obtaining a PlayStation 5. This, a month or two ago, or within the last month actually, and she's like, still some stock issues here and there, but then the digital version with the God of War Ragnarok bundle was available, and I told my friend who had never played God of War before, it's worth it. Get it.
Yeah.
And play it.
Nice.
And
good decision.
She did. And now she's on her way to play God of War 2018 because it comes with the PlayStation 5 collection. Yeah, before Ragnarok.
Okay,
so.
good. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Matt brought up Mimir, and definitely I loved the development of Mimir and Kratos' relationship because they just felt like, two uncles, or basically a father and an uncle taking care of the son/nephew. And it was just kind of a fun, like, dynamic of, Kratos being the father, but then Mimir trying to talk sense into Kratos being like, what if he just wants to spend time with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And trying to reason with him whenever Kratos is questioning Atreus' actions, and then Mimir being the literal voice of reason because all he is the head. To tell Kratos, it's like, listen, you gotta slow down, you gotta let him do what he needs to do or what he wants to do, or also, clash with Kratos on some points to be like, hey, you just need to back off, right? Mm-hmm. And so I really love that relationship.
In a literal sense, it's Sony Santa Monica's take on 2.5 Men, but just physically.
Oh, ayo, yeah, that's pretty funny. Yeah. Oh, great game.
All right. Great game. And with that, we only got one title left. But before we get to that title, what I would dub our personal goatees of 2022, we're going to take a little detour and we're going to run through some honorable mentions. So these would be games that we really enjoyed, but maybe they just couldn't cut the top 6 because it's such a cutthroat list, right? There's only 6 spots there. but obviously we've all played more than 6 games this year, so some things had to be left by the wayside. And so these are our honorable mentions. And I want this to be more of a free for all.
Yeah.
Like, we won't go in a specific order, but I just want to blanket. A lot of mine are just the co-op games that we played, because as much as I loved the co-op with, each of you both together and individually, I tend to just lean more towards like single player, like narrative focused games in general. And so I knew that unless I had such a great time with these co-op games, that they just wouldn't cut my top 6. And so just to mention a few, obviously Tribes of Midgard, got a shout out.
Yes.
Gotta shout it out.
This,
yeah.
One of my shout outs
the
as
three
well.
of us, we enjoyed this game. Not to say we're done with it, but maybe for all intent and purposes, we are done with it. Who
No,
knows?
don't say those words. Don't say that.
But it was just a fun kind of instant space co-op kind of looter / builder. I really don't know how to describe this, but it's the type of co-op experience that we could really enjoy in our sessions. And while there was kind of a long-term investment in terms of the season pass rate that we eventually have to max out, Matt, for that coveted trophy,
Platinum?
To get the platinum, but also just to be able to enjoy the games in and of itself, right? And be like, are we done? And, on some nights, we can fit in one more. And then other nights, we're like, yeah, that can be the last one we play. But to be able to have that degree of separation, to enjoy it both in the moment and then over many sessions was just such a great time.
Second. Yeah. I'd completely second it.
Yeah, like I've got a couple multiplayer games. One, Tribes of Midgard, of course. Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, playing with Alex.
Yep.
So much fun.
That is one of mine.
Yeah, like it was such a fun experience because Borderlands is like near and dear to both of our hearts, but this is the first time that we were actually able to play a title together, and it was so much fun. It's like Dungeons and Dragons themed, and so it was really, really fun. I really, really enjoyed that. But Grounded was another one that I played on Xbox. It came out of early access. Really fun game, playing with Yasser and Gerald. Like, it is a fun game. We build our base, and it's just so much fun. Like, if you ever are wanting to just like go back into the 90s and do the whole Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, that's what this game is, and it is so much fun. But my biggest takeaway from 2022 is this was the year of the DLCs, because I probably played more DLCs this year than I have in the past, and some of them were my favorites. Like I think Final Fantasy VII Remake Intermission was a great addition this year. So much fun.
Okay, yeah.
I love
Shout out to Yuffie.
Shout out to Yuffie. It was a great title. Super difficult. Did not finish it 100%, which makes me sad. I don't know if you guys did either. It's really tough.
I didn't 100% it.
Really,
no,
really
I was
tough.
like, that Grand Falcon game, I was like, F you.
Yeah.
Get out of my face.
Oh, For Condor.
For Condor.
Yeah. That was the easy
Great
part, but the
Falcon.
combat was really tough. There was Hot Wheels for Forza Horizon 5, which was so much fun, so beautifully imagined, and just like a blast. I 100%ed that. But my favorite DLC that almost made my top 6, as a DLC almost made my top 6, was Cuphead, the delicious last course. It was beautifully imagined. This had been in the making for years and years and years. One of my favorite games of all times. And I think that it was the strongest DLC that I've ever played. And I would recommend it to everybody. It is so good. So good. I'm watching a Let's Play with some personalities that I follow. And it is so much fun just to watch it again, because it is such a blast. It was so great. Well imagined. Love it.
Wow. So, the game, like the honorable mentions that I have, they've come up in this episode so far, and definitely one of them is Tinykin. Like, the fact, like, I was so thrown by how much I was enthralled by that game, and I can't wait to finish it. And like, I'm having a really great time playing it, and I heed everyone to take Matt's recommendation, all of our recommendations on today's episodes, but most definitely on Tinykin. And then, of course, this game, actually, I was waffling if this should be my number 6 game for like a week and a half, and that's Cult of the Lamb. So it was either going to be Cult of the Lamb or Escape Academy was going to be my number 6 pick, and in the end I went with Escape Academy. Cult of the Lamb had a lot of things that I love in a game. It consumed me. Like when it came out, I was playing it like nonstop for a weekend. Partially also because I was like, I want to get as much of the gaming time in as possible, because I was like going to start traveling for work and stuff. But man, the bugs that literally prevented me from progressing, like, was such a bummer. There were things that were happening that I didn't even realize were bugs, to be honest. Like, whenever you had a sermon, only 6 of my villagers would show up, and like I thought that was just like they just picked 6 random ones to show up. You know what I mean?
Those were the only 6 that cared.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And then apparently it's supposed to be all of them, and I was like, dang, like that makes a difference, because also like your rituals can depend on who shows up, you know? So like I thought, like, what if I wanted to sacrifice that one dude that's about to die and I don't want everyone vomiting over his corpse? Well, that one dude didn't show up because he wasn't one of my 6. So that, you know, that kind of diminishes some of the gameplay too. But I mean, though, honestly, like that game was really fun.
It
like
was fun.
I think
it was very fun.
Like, it was a fun game, and I did like it, but like some of it really like dampened it, my experience, but I still think it was a fun game. So that's why it's my honorable mention, like in the honorable mention side.
You know, Matt brought up Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. It's, as I mentioned before, it's also on my honorable mentions. Matt, I miss our co-op games. You know, we need to get back.
We do.
To just the one-on-one co-op. You know, I know Remnant 2 was announced at the Game Awards, but who knows when that game's coming out. But
I'm like flabbergasted.
We need to continue our co-op experience. But at the same time, another honorable mention I want to bring up, and that's with you, my beloved sister, Tiffany, is Temtem. That I really enjoyed. You know, if you want a well-performing Pokemon-style game, don't get Scarlet and Violet. Just get Temtem. Because Temtem exceeds what Scarlet and Violet attempts to do. I really enjoyed it. It is definitely a spin on the monster catching genre in a way. And also it just makes co-op meaningful because every battle's a double battle. So it's like one of your Tems and one of your co-op partner's Tems in these battles. And it makes you think about like, hey, we can't just have the same 3 types, right? Like we need to strategize. There's more meaningful to say, well, in any given battle, only our first 3 Tems can battle. And so we need to be, you know, decisive to say, hey, if you're going to bring a crystal type, you know, a digital type and a ground type, you know, I got to bring not those, right? Because what if we encounter some sort of battle where you get, you know, trounced because they just have stuff that's super effective against you. So I really appreciate Temtem on that regard because it's different enough and polished enough that it's definitely an enjoyable time. It just doesn't have the Pokemon, I guess, allure in terms of great designs because the Temtems aren't that great. I mean, some of the designs are cute, but they're pretty just random nonsense in a way, and it makes it hard to remember what types certain things are because when you look at it, you might think, oh, that definitely looks like a mental type, and then you look at it later, it's like, oh, nope, it's just like poison grass, and you're like, well, I did not remember that because it's not very obvious. So they could work on their clarity, but besides that, it's definitely a fun time. So in that case, right, I had a co-op game the 3 of us had that I really enjoyed with Matt. We need to continue that. That I enjoyed with you, Tiffany. That we need to continue that. And also another co-op game I briefly played with Matt that I won't mention now because I think he's going to mention it in a little bit. So I just want to, have we gone through all of our honorable mentions?
I've got one more.
I would say
one more.
Okay.
My number 7. My number 7. One of the best RPGs that I've ever played is Mass Effect 2. I've been working through the Mass Effect trilogy. It just barely got beat out for number 6 by Marvel Snap of all things. So Yasser's going to be ticked, but it's okay because that's one of his favorite games of all time. But fantastic. Like if they could bring it more into the modern era, like I couldn't imagine a better game. It which is a big reason why I've started Mass Effect 3 and I've not gotten through Mass Effect 3, because in my mind, I think Mass Effect 2 has taken the cake as the best Mass Effect game as far as I've seen so far. And so it's been kind of tough to finish the trilogy, but I should finish it probably in the next month or two. But I wanted to at least shout it out because it was a fantastic game. First time playing it, going through the trilogy. So kudos to BioWare.
Yeah, and I too started that also because I've been playing it on PC. Much better than Mass Effect 1, especially in performance and visuals. But I am also very far behind. I think I've only done the very first mission where I think her name's Tali, the one with the mask.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mass Effect fans out there are roasting me because that's how I describe that character.
Yeah, they've already at this point they have clicked away from the episode. They've like dislike button and then exited the web browser. Like they're out of here.
Yep. So I definitely need to finish my playthrough of Mass Effect 2 because I did Mass Effect 1 last year and I thought I was going to be able to do Mass Effect 2 this year, and then I would have saved 3 for next year. But it'll just a little bit behind the on that schedule, due to life events as we've discussed previously. But yeah, definitely will also try to continue that franchise and see it through to the end. All right, and with that, here we are. We've made it to our personal goatees, our number one. And I don't know how much more I need to say about this game, but it's kind of poetic justice because this was Tiffany's number 3 game and this was Matt's number 2 game, and so therefore it's filling out the whole roster. In some trophy case out there that's an amalgamation of all 3 of our top picks, it's taken 1, 2, and 3.
That's true.
And that is God of War Ragnarok by Sony Santa Monica. I've already talked about this when it was brought up on our co-host list. I really enjoyed this game. It made me cry several times. I felt a lot of touching moments, starting with even the very first 10 minutes of the game. I'm not going to mention any specific scenes, but you probably know what I'm talking about with the whole soul part. And then also the very end where a certain character goes off to do a certain thing without another character. And yeah, it's just these moments where, for me, what really makes it GOATY, my personal GOATY, is that because I can have these wide range of emotions, I think for me, I really appreciate games from the creative artistic side as opposed to just the fun side, where this is definitely a fun game to play. I love the combat. The puzzles could be better, but they're still fun for the most part. And I most definitely love the story, and I feel like this is a type of narrative where, because it's interactive, it just hits a lot harder than reading a book or watching a movie or show, because you're going through these things. Like, even though the story might be laid out, especially in this case where you're not really making choices and it's more of a linear path, you're the one controlling the sticks, you're the one pressing the buttons. It's kind of you causing the story to progress in some fashion. And I think there's a lot of weight that goes behind it, especially the big pivotal moments where certain characters die. Yes, non-spoilery. And those two just experiencing it, especially as unexpected as they happen, even until the very end, it just hit me very hard to be like, wow, like there's weight to this, right? And I feel like a lot of stories don't have, high stakes. It's like, there's struggles that the characters go through, but there's no really troubles. Like they mention it, it's like, oh, it's past troubles, but there's nothing that happens like on the immediate journey where you're with them. And in this case, there's changes that happen that will drastically impact the future of the franchise because of what transpires in the story. And so definitely I really enjoy it just based off that fact. But also I have to air my grievance. As much as I love this game, as much as this game is my personal GOATY, my main grievance is that Muspelheim is still bad. I'm sorry, Sony Santa Monica. I don't care if you ran out of ideas or anything. Not that I heard that anywhere, but like, why do I care about these trials, and why in order to do the final trial it's like a weird like permutation of the other trials. It's like you gotta do the first trial, then the second trial, but if you do the second trial first then the first trial, it's a different combination. Like why would you think that this is fun? Like, why not just make a bunch of different trials? Why do I have to like combine it? Like, and then it's the same ones, so I'm just picking the ones that are the fastest to do because I already did them, so I don't want to have to do them again, but I need to in order to do the one in the middle that's different.
Yeah.
And so I'm just picking whatever I can do fastest. And so it's like I'm not really enjoying it anymore. I'm just going through the motions. Like, I enjoy the combination trials. Like when you get to the middle, like there's one where you have to stay in a zone and it's moving around the battlefield, and so you have to like constantly move along with it. I enjoy that. That's fun. But do I care about throwing orbs into a portal 9 times? No. But I'm going to do it because it takes me a minute to do it. So anyway, besides that, you work on that realm for the next game in case it comes back. I want something more than just these random combat challenges. But otherwise, such a fantastic game.
I'm glad you said something about that because that was the most grindy part of the game, but it's still a masterpiece in my mind. Like, it was a small speed bump. I'm really happy that I did that early on because I think if I started doing it now at hour 45, I'd be so salty. I'd be like, what is this fluff right now? Like, I've been playing this game for 40 hours. I don't want to just be repeating doing the same thing over and over, but fantastic game. Well deserved for number 1. Well deserved.
Yes. Great game. Loved it. So my number 1 pick. Now, there's a game that we haven't mentioned at all during this discussion, and I feel like the audience is like, where is it? And that game is Pokemon Violet. But that's not my number 1. I'm sorry.
Oh, wow.
That is not my number 1 game.
The fake out.
It's switcheroo.
It is, in fact, an honorable mention that I saved in my pocket because I wanted to see the looks on my co-host faces. But my number 1 game is a little game called Marvel's Midnight Suns.
Nice.
You guys, this game took me by storm. Like, absolute
But she's not
storm.
in the game yet.
You're right, she's not, but she will be. Marvel's Midnight Suns came out December 2nd, and I finished that game in less than 3 weeks. I put in over like 50 some hours into that game. It consumed me. It's so good. Let me explain. Give me the floor. So this game is about your character is a brand new character to the Marvel universe named Hunter. Or the Hunter. You can be a boy or a girl, you choose. And you end up being resurrected in order to help fight against Lilith, the mother of demons, who also happens to be your mama. And so you're resurrected and you end up going back to a place called the Abbey, which is in a pocket dimension in Salem, Massachusetts. And you are with your aunt, whose name is Sarah, and she's the caretaker, so Lilith's sister. And as Hunter, you are at the Abbey. You're working with the team of the Midnight Suns, which include Nico from the Runaways, Magic from X-Men, Blade of
From
Vampire
Blade.
fame. Yeah, from Blade. And the 4th character is Ghost Rider, which is the younger Ghost Rider, like not the one that we know. I think his name is Robbie Reyes, is the Ghost Rider of your Midnight Suns playthrough. Anyway, so those are the Midnight Suns. And you also have the Avengers that come in, like Captain Marvel, Captain America, Iron Man, Doctor Strange, whatever. You have these group of Marvel characters, and you interact with them, you can befriend them, you can give them gifts, you can customize your base, you can upgrade your Abbey, you can explore the Abbey grounds, you can look for secrets. There's chests everywhere that you can unlock, customize outfits and stuff, like or color variations of your outfits. But the battling is card based. So this game is made by Firaxis, and they famously made the XCOM games. And so it's like a tactical, not grid based, but like map battlefield with cards. And you build your deck. Every character has 8 cards in them because you go on every mission with 3 characters. And when I say build your deck, they do have a base deck. Like they come with 8 cards, right? And then you basically earn more cards to upgrade the cards in your character's deck or replace them with other cards and stuff. And so you just keep progressing. And there's a story. The story is all right. Okay? The story, the dialogue between characters, cheesy, but I'm here for it. Like, it's just like kind of ridiculous, but I love it. And the story actually kind of makes sense. Like, I was a little bit invested in it. The ending, y'all, I was mouth agape.
Really?
There was also an after credit scene. There was a mid credit scene and an after credit scene. So I was like, yo, this is real Marvel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So let me tell you, my mission in this game was to literally the 2 BFFs. You know who my squad was? If I could, it was going to be Hunter, Captain Marvel, and Spider-Man. Okay. And I was like, Marvel and Spidey are going to be my BFFs. Like I'm like racing to get to the top friendship level with both of them. And it ended up being Spidey. And I was like, you know what, Peter? This is it. This feels right. Like, you were my best friend. Also, Peter Parker, voiced by the same voice actor that voiced the Spider-Man, Sony Spider-Man games, and in Miles Morales. So honestly, he's like my Spider-Man. Yuri Lowenthal, killing it. Like, he's Spider-Man in the Sony verse. I'm here for it. But yeah, you guys, I'm going to open the floor to questions. Yes.
Did they take off his mask? What did he look like? Did he look like Sony Spider-Man? Or the old Sony Spider-Man?
Honestly, that's the real question here. He looked like
Andrew Garfield.
No, he looked like
the real Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Tobey Maguire.
Yeah, no, he looked like his own dude, his own little white boy.
Gotcha.
I'll open the floor of questions now because I know that you guys are like, what in the world?
So is this basically Fire Emblem Midnight Suns?
Okay, I think specifically we might need to say Fire Emblem 3 Houses Midnight Sun or
sure.
Right. Yes, I would say yes minus the there's no grid. There's no grid on the battlefield, and there are cards.
Okay, but
so,
like everything else, like the social stuff, like you have a limited amount of time to do things in between battles and stuff.
Yes. But you cannot marry anyone. No one's getting married. No one's. It's all just. It's just a lot
business.
Of flirting.
Yeah.
And friendship. Yeah. It's just flirting and friendship, and not even. Sometimes it's flirting. Sometimes it's not. You're just like, why can't you just be friends? You know.
F and F.
But sometimes there are some
friendship.
There's like, there's some undertones though that I'm like, what's happening here? Like.
Was the okay? So here's another thing. I don't want spoilers because I am intrigued. Right. I've heard enough good things about this to sell me on it. Like, I will play it at some point. Do the mid-credit and after-credit scenes make you think that there is a Midnight Suns 2 or a greater universe that this is building?
Yes.
Okay.
So, like, the end, honestly, like, my mouth was like, what? This is the end? And then, like, an after credit scene,
it's
a voice from afar, right? Like, okay. There's more to it than that. But I was like, what? And then there is DLC. There's projected DLC coming out.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, like they've literally announced, like, there's a season pass that I regretfully did not purchase the season pass. And right now, like, if I were to buy the season pass, it would be be more money than the version of the game that came with the season pass. So I'm basically like trying to stand my ground a bit to hold off. But the characters that will come from the season pass include Deadpool.
Oh, excellent.
Storm.
Also excellent.
Venom.
Oh, so good.
And a fourth character that I do not recall. But there's 4 characters that are planned to come out. And listen, the banter is pretty good. Like, some of the banter is really good. There's some cheesy, like, story beats, but the banter of, like, Iron Man and Doctor Strange bickering, hilarious. like tech genius versus mystical arts. And the idea of throwing Deadpool in the mix, forget about it. Like,
So
I need
good.
this. Yeah. Like, I need it.
You've sold me. Like, you've definitely sold me. Are you playing on Switch? Or no, you're playing on PlayStation.
I'm playing on PlayStation, baby. I'm
Nice.
at 98% of the trophies, Matthew.
Oh, nice. The last trophy that you have to get, or last trophies, are they difficult?
So here's the deal. Here's
Uh-oh.
this might dissuade you. I don't want this to
Do you have to
dissuade
replay
you,
it?
but so there's a mechanic where you can, when you're building up your friendships, right? You can either choose a light answer or a dark answer sometimes, and a neutral answer. And so there's basically like a light path and a dark path. The dark path is like you're basically an a-hole to everybody, or you're just like blunt. Like no, color, no like white lies or anything. You're just like, yeah, we might all die on this mission, but we're going to die trying. Like there's that, like there's a dark answer, or like the light answer is like, with teamwork, we will be sure to achieve our goals. Like, you know what I mean? Like those
Gotcha,
are
yeah.
the types of choices. And there's literally a trophy that says get maximum light, and then reach maximum light path, and then reach maximum dark path. And you have to earn 200 points to get to the maximum path. So do the math with me. If you go 200 in one direction, you have to go not 600. You have to go 400
Don't
in
do
the
the math
opposite
with her.
direction. You have to do it. Hold on.
It's a
You
trap.
have to
Don't
go,
do the math.
yeah, 400 in the opposite direction for a total of 600.
Yeah, got it. That's awful. You might as well
So-
just start a new game.
Exactly, because then you start at 0 when you start a new game. But the new game plus leaves a lot to be desired. So I'm struggling. I'm either going to do some weird save scumming thing, or I'm going to wait till the DLC comes out and just honestly just work my way down the a-hole path
Yeah.
with the DLC. But honestly, like the card mechanics aren't that wild. Like it's not Magic the Gathering level card play, okay?
Okay.
It's like, I'm going to say maybe it's on level of Marvel Snap. 2, basically, for my board gamers out there, if you've ever played Clank or like Hogwarts, a deck building game, or Summer Camp, any of those deck building board games, it's like that. It's really like that. So like, don't say card mechanics aren't your thing. Like, just, you haven't played Marvel's Midnight Suns. Or maybe some other card games. But give this one a shot. If you like tactics, and if you like Marvel, and you like base building, and you like being friends with Spider-Man, Marvel's Midnight Suns.
Sounds good to me. I've been looking to see if PowerPix had an article about maybe some save scumming stuff, but it does not look like they have published anything. So maybe in the future.
I mean, honestly, also, Matt, I'm going to tell you, because I knew about this, like, maximum path on either side, like, to be honest, I was like, I'm not going to plat this game. I'm just playing and I'm having a grand time. But I'm, like, over here popping trophies left and right just by playing. Like, I barely had to try. You know what I mean? Like, it was just, like, gameplay. I was just playing the game. And I was like, oh, my God. I just basically...
I'm a gamer.
I'm, like, I'm a gamer. And I'm a trophy away from the platinum.
Yeah.
That's literally how this happened.
Now it's too close. It's number 1 on your recommendation list. Like, you have to do it. Like, you're obligated.
I know. I've like made a blood pact.
Yeah, for sure. All right. My number 1 should not be a surprise to anyone. And I've already planned it.
Scarlet.
Pokemon Scarlet. I didn't appreciate the stray bullet that hit it when you were talking about Tim. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
No. The best game this year. The best game in the past probably 5 to 10 years.
Decade?
Elden Ring. It is the newest From Software game. It is a game that came out this year. Me being a huge fan of Soulsborne games, I was already thinking this was going to be my goatee before I even played it. And then I just put in 90 some hours into it. was obsessed with it was I did not look up spoilers. I did not look up walkthroughs for different things. I just explored the way I wanted to explore. And just the scope for me has taken this to GOTY material. Like this is, for me, like Soulsborne are usually more linear. These are dungeon crawlers where you're going down a certain path. Maybe you'll find a path that gets you back to the entrance, or maybe there will be a walkway that you can unlock to get to a different path that's generally more on a linear path. That is what Dark Souls 1 was. That is what Dark Souls 2 and 3 built on. Many of their other Soulsborne games built on similar materials. And then they said, hey, we're going to do that, but we're going to put this in an open world. And I kind of was not looking forward to it because I'm like, what makes this so good is how linear it is. And I did not know that they would be able to pull it off. And that they did. And that is one of my best experiences, one of this year, but two of the past probably 5 to 10 years, I would say. This is one of the best games I've ever played in my entire life. Just the sheer amount of different settings that you can go in, and that you can go into an unsuspecting house. Oh, there's an elevator. You go down an elevator, and it looks like the Northern Lights. Like the sky opens up, and there's beautiful stars as the ceiling of this cave. And like honestly, I was just like, I don't know what I'm playing. Like this game is just above everything that I could ever expect it to be. Because when you live in a world that has Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, that has set the standard for open world adventure games. It has set the standard. Every time one comes around, they're like, well, Breath of the Wild did it. They, did this, they did this, they did this. Now, for the first time since then, Elden Ring is that new standard in my mind. I think open world adventure game, Elden Ring is there, and I think it's going to be really hard to beat. Honestly, any time in the future where we're looking back at this, I don't know how they're going to bring it. I think they will because it's from Software and Miyazaki's a mastermind for all these things. But for me, I think looking back at my time, I'm surprised, one, that we're 2 hours into this podcast and it's the first time we've talked about Elden Ring. Even though Alex kind of mentioned it a little bit, he didn't want to spoil it for everybody because he knew it was going to be my number one. But Alex and I played a fair bit of Elden Ring together. Like that was the fun part. And there was times when, especially at the boss, like I wanted to do my run being a complete magician. Like I wanted spells to be my thing.
Okay.
Problem is, I would get hit once and die, which is fine because I can dodge most things, but I just needed a meat shield, and that meat shield was Alex. And Alex rode out those
he
last
answered
few...
the call.
He answered the call, and there was plenty of times where we're just like sitting there waiting to see his little symbol, to me summoning him to the boss arena, for us walking into the boss arena.
Matt, finger me.
Yeah.
What? What?
If you played the game, it wouldn't have been as offensive. But it's basically a way to summon them. You use cut off fingers, basically, to summon people. It's part of the world. It would take another hour to explain it.
Okay.
But the way that we were able to mostly seamlessly summon each other and get into each other's game, it was just so much fun. And honestly, some people are like, oh, there's some weird gatekeepers that are like, if you summon anybody, it's not a true win. And I'm like, why? Like, that was my Elden Ring experience, was me beating the final boss, and like Alex was there, and that was cool. Like, that was cool to me. Like that elevated the experience to me. So I'm all about it. It's definitely my favorite experience of the year. So I guess I lied. I guess this is a co-op in a lot of ways. But I still have it downloaded because I have plenty of friends that are still wanting to play, and I am ready to answer the call whenever they need me. Because it's just such a good
he's
game.
ready to get fingered.
Stop saying it, Alex. Stop it. Stop it.
No, Matt, like you mentioned, this is definitely an honorable mention for me. You know, of course, I couldn't go this top 6 without mentioning Elden Ring. Also because it did win, you know, the Game Awards, Game of the Year. You know,
Yeah.
well
Yep.
deserved. And I really, it is also my first true, I guess, Soulsborne type game that I've played. I did try Dark Souls 3 a little bit. I did try Bloodborne a little bit. Neither of those really grabbed me. Mostly because I think I'm not really into the gothic slash like Cthulhu, you know, Lovecraftian horror that is Bloodborne, or like the, you know, medieval kind of fantasy that the Souls games are. But this kind of hit that nice ground where it's still medieval fantasy mostly, but because of how strange it is, right? A lot of things about hands, a lot of things about fingers. You know, you finger
Yeah.
each other into each other's worlds. Like one of the like guides is like 2 fingers, which is just like a hand, but it only has 2 fingers remaining, and then you like talk to it and it like tells you to go do things. Like who knows what
Is
George
going
R. R.
on.
Martin
Yeah.
wrote up for this game. Like I don't know, he's just a perv.
Oh my
But
god.
I mean, you look at Game of Thrones, it's very self-evident there.
Okay. That's fair. Okay. Never mind.
But I think for me, what kind of kept it out, not to say I don't like the Soulsborne games, because I too also enjoyed the co-op. You know, I played a lot of this game using the co-op to my advantage, where I would put my sign down, get summoned into someone else's world, not just yours, but just random people's worlds, you know, random people fingering me, and
Alex, you need
basically exploring the dungeons by being in their world. And you know, a benefit of when you're summoned as a visitor, when you die, you keep all of the experience you gained. Like you don't lose it upon death as you would as the host or in your normal play. And you can go back to your own world, you know, bank it, you know, level up. And then once I knew the layout of the dungeon, I would then run through it myself, like with all the knowledge I gained, like basically no risk to me. And so I really enjoyed that being an option, because I think that's one of the strides it makes, like in open world design, to say, hey, we have a lot of areas you need to explore and figure out on your own, but here's a way to make that less anxiety inducing, where I'm not always worried about, oh god, you know, I have like 3 levels worth of experience on me. If I die, I need to run back to this spot. Otherwise, if I die again, I lose it all, right? And so being able to lessen that degree of gambling and a risk made the game a lot more enjoyable for me, because that's, I feel like, one of the main reasons I stay away from the other games is because I didn't like how much anxiety I would have to be like, I gotta make it to the next checkpoint, otherwise if you die twice in a row without making it back to where you died the first time, you know, you lose it all. And it's a way of feeling bad, which I think they found a way to make it less so with Elden Ring. But also, I'd say, you know, my grievance with Elden Ring I would like to air is that I really didn't enjoy how much flexibility there was in the open world, because even though there were so many dungeons you can go into, so many bosses you could battle, it, because the game runs off of a stat system where you allocate points, you know, to strength, to vitality, to magic, uh, the way the treasures are placed in the world are bespoke, so it's not like they randomize where things are. Like, you know, if you start a new game and you go to a specific spot, it will have a specific item for you. It, to me, it felt, as someone who didn't want to explore different builds, because I'm not the biggest fan of like restatting and trying out different things. Sometimes I felt like the exploration felt wasted, because, like, you know, me being the melee focus, like I was dual wielding katanas, like that was my character. I wore the samurai armor. I was role playing as like, I go in, I either dodge your attack or block it, otherwise I'm right up in their face. It felt bad getting a magic item, right? It felt bad getting a staff, a spell, because I couldn't use it. And since I couldn't spec into it, it felt diminishing in some ways. And for me, that was a detractor. I just hope in the future that maybe there's some sort of design, maybe from software or from another developer, that they keep that in mind, where if especially you have builds, there's a way to like make it so the exploration kind of caters to you. Because at least for me, it made me not, or it made me want to explore less, because I'm like, well, if I do this dungeon, I don't know what I'm gonna get. So if it's something like a staff that I can't use, it kind of feels like a waste besides the experience. So just a minor gripe on my part. If there's like maybe there's something in the game that told you what you might get from the dungeon that I didn't see, and that would have probably resolve a lot of the problems I have to be like, oh yeah, if I know magic item is there, I won't go there. Then I could cater my experience a little bit more closely. But besides that, it's definitely a fun game otherwise.
And like how I would do it is I explored every cave in every cavern. So anytime I found an opening, I would put a marker on the map, and I collected everything. Like I destroyed that game as a completionist. Like that's what brought me joy of just like living and breathing that world. Because to me, it's like if there is a sword that I can't spec into, it at least gives me there's lore pieces on the items, and it's like a very From Software thing to do. It's like a lot of the lore is written on the items, and that gives me an idea of kind of like why is that the piece that you get during this like cave. Like it gives you more lore
okay.
about like why that would be there. Like was this a bandit hideout, and like did that bandit, like did he come from like royalty, and like was that like a dagger that he was bestowed since he was a prince of this like thing. Like there's so many different pieces that they have to it that I really enjoy that type of storytelling where you kind of have to fill in the blanks a little bit. But what a game. Honestly, what a great year for gaming, because so many good games, so many good recs that now I have to play more because I didn't get to play everything.
Dude, this is and like going into 2023, I can't even like the audience, stick with us through 2023 because we're gonna have another wild ride.
Oh yeah! In case you enjoyed this episode, our next episode will most likely be our top 2023 anticipated experiences.
Yep.
Or the Fantasy Critic episode.
Yeah,
so
and our Fantasy Critic. Well, recap. So we do a thing called Fantasy Critic, which is a website where you essentially do a fantasy draft of video games based on their open critic review scores. In addition to our most anticipated, we'll be doing a review of our 2022 Fantasy Critic, as well as probably reviewing what we do as our initial draft for 2023. So definitely stay tuned for that. In case you would like to be notified when that episode comes up, hit that subscribe button down on YouTube. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this episode. Otherwise, if you're not watching this on YouTube, maybe subscribe to this on your podcast service of choice, or, give us a like/rating if possible. I think Apple Podcasts lets you rate things, lets you leave reviews in case you liked it, positive or negative. Actually, we'll take any feedback you can give us. In case you don't want to do that there, we're also on Twitter at RXP_podcast, or you can give us feedback by writing into our email, which is rxp.podcast@gmail.com. Shout out to Grandmaster Doug for our theme song in the intro and outro. And until next time, take care. She hates Mike Wazowski.
Befriending them? No, you had to cripple them.